Hello, I'm Robert McCorquodale.
And I'm Kristen Hausler.
And we work for the British Institute of International and Comparative Law. We've been doing some really fascinating work in relation to the protection of education in insecurity and armed conflict. We've produced with Peace some various books, such as on a handbook on this area, and also in relation to reparations and implementation in the Middle East and North Africa region. And we consider these issues as vitally important because there's many ways in which protection of education is at risk in insecurity and armed conflict.
Yeah, we can think of many examples. Of course, in armed conflict, education facilities can be destroyed or damaged, which would discontinue the education of students. Students could be forced to join armed forces, for example. Teachers may be dismissed because of their alleged support to a certain political party, etc. What is, of course, very important to keep in mind is that quite often armed conflicts are protracted, they last a very long time. So the fact that students cannot have education for a certain number of years is not just damaging for them, but for the broader community as well.
And also the particular issues we considered were international human rights law, international humanitarian law, and international criminal law, because these create the core foundation of international norms in this area. So we looked at each of these three areas.
Yeah, and each of these legal frameworks protect education in a different way. Of course, within international human rights law, you have the right to education, which is a very important right. It's recognized as an enabling right, which means that individuals who do enjoy the right to education can also enjoy other rights, such as the right to work, for example. It is a right that states have to respect, protect, and fulfill even in times of armed conflict. If you look at international humanitarian law, well, it protects students and education facilities as civilians or civilian properties. So, for example, as long as students do not take part in hostilities, or as long as education facilities are not, do not become legitimate military targets, for example, if they are used to house weapons or troops. And finally, we looked at international criminal law. It could, of course, be a deterrent for those who may want to perpetrate war crimes against education facilities, for example, by intentionally destroying them. But of course, it also allows to prosecute individuals who have committed war crimes against education facilities, who have also committed crimes against humanity, for example, by persecuting certain segments of the population.
And also the issues keep on going. There's still many more threats, many more matters which need to be considered. These such as education of displaced persons. With the significant increase of displaced persons around the world, there's an issue about their education. There's also the fact of the role of non-state actors, both as education providers and as people who are preventing education occurring. And during transitional periods, there's a matter of how one protects education in those things. And finally, of course, there's a matter of enforcement and compliance, which remains difficult. And so our focus going forward is on implementation of these international law norms, particularly in the MENA region, Middle East and North African region, and elsewhere around the world. Thank you.